again. I did just do a review of Tone Deaf. If you want to watch it, go for it. It was a doozy. Today is about Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. It is the second in, as of now, will be a trilogy. So the preceding book is Belladonna. While I thought Foxglove opened strong, when we started getting into the story, I was completely lost. I kept asking myself, did you zone out that much that you missed vital pieces of information? No. In order to read Foxglove, I 100% recommend reading Belladonna first because they are so intertwined and what Grace does not do. Because I remember my friend, the first time she read Harry Potter, one of her first comments was, it's so annoying how J.K. Rowling continues to repeat information at the beginning of each book, which she's not wrong. But this book is why Rowling summarizes what has happened in prior books. Grace did not clue me into anything regarding what happened in the first novel. There were some generalities, but on the whole, there were really important pieces of information regarding characters or events or things that characters learned about themselves that were not here. I don't understand what's happening because I don't have the context. The first half of this book was trash. The second half was redeeming, but I am uncertain if I want to go back and try Belladonna. All the reviews that I've read say, oh, Belladonna was awesome. And then because of how Foxglove ended, I'm like, maybe I want to read Wisteria. I don't know yet. However, my first note here is, where are my reviews? Copying and pasting the Dust Jacket summary and then saying, oh, this was so much better than Belladonna, but I don't want to give anything away, is not a review. When I was just trying to write my notes, and it's been about a week, I should have written things down sooner, but I didn't have time. There's been a lot going on. So all I wanted was like Cliff's Notes or here's a list of characters. Nothing. All you guys did was copy and paste the Dust Jacket, and I was like, but I know this already. And I know who the main characters are, but there are some tertiary characters whose names I forgot. And so now you guys are gonna get them because I've turned the audiobook back in and I can't get the ebook or the physical version for like another week. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that to you guys. I don't want my review to suffer just because I can't remember certain characters' names. But I'm just saying, guys, that is not a review. A review is getting into characters. A review is talking about plot. You don't necessarily have to give away the spoilers. I just like to because I can't talk about a book without giving away everything because I need to talk about everything because it all is connected. But you know, there are plenty of reviewers out there who give examples of things without giving away the entire novel. So where are you? Where are you? And you know what? If this book took me 10 hours to read and you guys have to watch a 1 hour review, that is 1 hour because guys, I'm trying to keep these short and I can't, but 1 hour and knowing everything about a book is a time saver if you need to know now rather than giving it the 10 hours, which as I said, if you just want to pick up halfway through the book, you'll get a much better book than if you read the whole entire thing. With that out of the way, I thought that Grace tried to do a lot. And maybe I would have responded to it better if I had read Belladonna because I would have understood these characters and what's going on. But there were three main things that Grace was trying to do in this book. One, make it a romance. Two, make it a murder mystery. And three, make it fantasy. The main character, her name is Signa. Apparently, in Belladonna, she learns that she is a reaper. She has a lot of dealings with death, and in book one, she falls in love with Death. In book 2, there's more of a love triangle, although we'll get into that in a minute because that's like an overstatement. I had no understanding as to her powers. I have no clue how her being a Reaper is anything different than Death. That's the fantasy element. We have Death, and then we introduce his brother Fate. And there's all this drama between them because of another character, which I'll get into. But let's put it this way. So the beginning of the novel is what I thought was super strong, which is Fate is weaving a tapestry only to hear other tapestries calling to him. He goes to the very first tapestries he's ever done. One is woven in black thread, one is woven in silver thread, and these threads are doing things they're not supposed to be doing. I don't know if this is an allusion to Belladonna, but we do learn that there have been tapestries in which the person's fate does not go according to his plan. He gets very angry about what he sees in these tapestries. He tries to burn them, they will not burn, and then he heads out the door. From there, Signa is at a party. This duke dies. He is poisoned. She has 2 uncles, because again, this is all stuff that we learn from Belladonna that Grace does not really get into in Foxglove. Death follows Signa, and she, for the last couple years, has been living with her uncle Elijah, his daughter Blythe, her uncle Byron, and his son Percy. Something happened in the last novel, and this is not really a spoiler, but she causes Percy's death, or she kills Percy. I still don't know why. Something about Percy's death allowed Blythe to live because Blythe had been sick, and apparently she has defied death 3 times. Elijah had been a drunk. This duke is killed or dies after Elijah hands him this poison drink. So Fate has shown up, and Fate accuses Elijah of killing this duke. He kind of puts the bug in all these people's ears. So now Elijah is arrested and brought to jail. That mystery, you would think that would be at the forefront of this novel because that's where we start. Although maybe it's not, because where we actually started with Fate. But when are we going to solve this mystery? When are we going to put any kind of effort into solving who killed the Duke? Because Blythe does not believe that her father killed the Duke. Signa does not believe that Elijah killed the Duke because he had been sober for, I don't know, recent months or something. He'd gotten better. So it's like, well, maybe he had been the target, but he couldn't have been the target because he didn't drink anymore. It was frustrating. Blythe, because we have 2 perspectives, Blythe and Signa, and personally, I thought Blythe was much more interesting until the second half when Signa actually became a worthwhile character. I read a review that thought that Blythe was kind of whiny. Maybe she was, but compared to Signa, I will take Blythe any day. Her mission is to save her father's life, is to figure out who actually killed the Duke. And then she had some kind of encounter with Fate, who is now going about calling himself Prince Eris. So she had some kind of interaction with him that, unless like I completely missed it, was not actually shown. She believes that he is the key to getting her father out of jail and acquitted. But now that she realizes that he's the rude dude she had an encounter with, she's like, I don't know how this is going to work. Where meanwhile, he wants nothing to do with Blythe because he thinks that Signa is his long lost wife, Life. And this is why Death and Fate don't get along, because ages and ages and ages ago, Life, who reincarnates, I don't really know at what point in her lifespan they meet her, but they think they're kind of alone in being immortal creatures with supernatural powers. And then one day they meet Life. I don't know what she looked like, because when Death is talking to Signa about her, Signa is getting kind of jealous, and Death is like, I didn't look at her that way. I loved her. She was a wonderful person. But he describes her as being very old, whereas to Fate, she was young and beautiful. He even has a statue of her in his courtyard. He has this massive picture on his wall, or this painting on his wall. So I don't really know. I mean, maybe she had been beautiful and then she aged, but then when she died, death took her. And both he and Fate say, oh, he took her in the worst way possible, which I don't quite know what that means, except for the fact that like her dying period would be the worst way possible. From my recollection, we don't actually get an explanation as to how or what death did to take her away. But now Fate 100% believes that Signa is life. Can I just say, she apparently in Belladonna, Signa and Death did not get along, and then they fell in love. There's an intimate scene going on between them after the Duke dies, and I'm like, how? And gross. Her intimacy with Death gave me the ick. But then I couldn't figure out, how are they intimate if his touch will kill her? But what she'll do is she will essentially kill herself. She will eat, I think it's belladonna, and it will take her out of her human form and put her into her Reaper form. But I don't think Death can touch her even then. So there are just a lot of things that Grace, I'm assuming, she explained in the first novel that she did not talk about in this novel. That left me so confused. But yeah, they have like this romantic scene, at which point the Duke who's watching them is like, no wonder you didn't fall in love with my son. And I think his name is Everett. He is the name that I was looking for and could not find. I didn't know the depth of her relationship with Death. So now Death is like, I want you. He holds a ball. And everybody comes. Her first question is, how is nobody questioning where he came from or where this palace showed up from? Which, can I also say that his palace is like right down the road. So her homestead is Foxglove, but Byron and Elijah and Blythe's home is Thorn Grove. How is it that Fate's home Wisteria has just been down the road from theirs for all these years? If that gives you any clue as to what might be happening, I'm like, She's the only one that notices how all this just came out of nowhere and how nobody's questioning it. We see this beautiful statue, and then we see Blythe and Fate talking, and she's just like, I hate this guy, but I need this guy. But you know, they're looking at this beautiful painting of this woman on the wall. Later, Fate invites Signa to dance. And so while they're dancing, he breaks the news. He's like, you're my long lost love. I'm gonna get you back. And I'm like, because I don't know about her relationship with Death, like to the extent. I'm like, okay, so is this gonna be a love triangle? In essence, it's supposed to be. He's like, I'm going to do everything I can to win you back. And I'm going to do everything I can to make you remember. But he's also cut her off from any communication with Death, which I'm like, I don't understand, because it seems like anytime she eats the belladonna, she sees him anyways. But I guess after Fate has stepped in, or her taking her Reaper form has become harmful, deadly to her, which I don't understand how this whole Reaper thing works. She's like, okay, look, I don't want you. I don't like you. I'm in love with your brother, but let's strike a bargain. If you want this, I want this, which is essentially, I want to have contact with Death. So he agrees, but aside from one instance in which he floods her house with flowers, and I guess continues to send her flowers, and then another instance in which they're all playing croquet, they have nothing to do with each other. So what is it with this romance? And everybody who did give a review were like, oh, we really like the fact that Death took a back seat. I'm like, there's no romance here. Like, I just don't understand what her intent was. And then I had to do some research, and that's why I was so frustrated, because there were no decent reviews to tell me what's going on. But once I figured out that she was in love with, like, the first novel was about her falling in love with Death, I was like, there's no way that fate is actually going to be a player in this game. She basically realized that too, so this was just an unrealized plot point. It's just dumb. That just goes back to the whole, like, what is her purpose for this book? Because she's trying to tackle a lot of things, and it's like 2 books in one. And the halfway point is when they get cut in half and we go from one idea to the other, or one point of focus to another. There was somebody who in their review said that they felt like this book was more of a middle grade novel than a young adult, and I disagree. I think the themes, writing, character, ages, all of this falls right in young adults' wheelhouse. I just think it was underdeveloped. It was simplistic in many ways, and that's why this person might have thought that it belonged better with middle grade. So it wasn't the ideas, it was more the execution and the writing that failed this novel for me, at least in the first half. Which, guys, I was this close to, because since I knew there was a 3rd book, I was this close to just being like, I'm done. I can summarize without needing to finish. And I'm glad that I did get to that halfway point. Another underlying plot point is that Blythe and Byron are searching for Percy. This is when I was like, I mean, I understand who Percy is, but I don't understand the role he played in the first novel, and I don't really understand why he's so important here. Obviously, we're gonna mourn the death/disappearance of our loved one, but why did he have to die? He died in a fire of some sort in the woods. I guess they hid the body or they disposed of the body. They did something, so it didn't look like he actually died in that fire, that maybe he just left. But this is an obsession for Byron, and then this is also somewhat of an obsession for Blythe. She wants to know what happened to him. Around here is when we start to wonder if we actually like Byron, because Blythe is 100% first worried about her dad. She is able to get Fate to get her in because of that croquet game, because she's like, whoever wins gets to ask for whatever they want. Death does intervene a little bit. Fate is like, you cannot help them cheat, blah, blah, blah. Blythe is a really good player anyways, so they win, and she's like, I want to see my dad. Signa had gone in her Reaper form to try to get information from Elijah about who killed the Duke. She said, ooh, Byron is not making sure that he's okay at all. But when Blythe goes, she's like, who is this man and what is happening to him here? And they are under the gun because he is going to be tried very soon. Now we're like, is Byron a good guy? Did Byron have anything to do with the killing of the Duke? Did Byron try to kill Elijah? Like, where does Byron fit into this? And Byron's not a nice guy. He doesn't help himself out. Blythe, in her quest to figure out what happened with Percy, goes to visit this girl named Michelle. Again, I don't know who Michelle is. I think she came from the first novel. Signa, earlier on, had been daydreaming, if you know what I mean, about death. And Blythe is like, ooh, who are you thinking about? And she's like, Everett, or whatever his name is. So now Blythe is like, I didn't know you liked him, especially like that, but okay. She comes upon Michelle's house, which is, or estate or manor, whatever it is. Whatever her status is, she is not worthy of Everett. Everett's dad wanted him to marry Signa. But when she comes upon Michelle's place of habitation, she catches those two making out and just kind of having interactions that were unacceptable for this time period. She's like, Michelle, what do you know? I guess Michelle had witnessed something regarding the fire and whatever may have happened to Percy, and Michelle points the finger at Signa. So now Blythe is like, huh, because Byron at one point had intimated that maybe Signa needs to leave, and Blythe was like, absolutely not. She's gonna stay here at Greystone with me. Is it Greystone? Thorn Grove. I can never remember the name of that place. Now she's second guessing Signa, and she's always got her eye out on Signa. This then goes into, something happens. I can't quite remember what it is, but Signa enters her Reaper form in front of Blythe, and Blythe can see them, and Signa's like, okay. And there's a foal that is struggling for life. Signa ends up killing it, and Blythe is like, oh, you need to bring him back to life. This goes back to a greater conversation. Signa thinks that Blythe means the horse, when what Blythe actually meant was Percy, because this conversation was relating to, what does Signa know about Percy's disappearance? Signa brings this colt back to life, and Blythe is pissed at her because she's like, I didn't mean the colt, I meant Percy. Why can't you or couldn't you bring him back to life? And this is a new ability for Signa, again, because I don't know what her abilities are, period. I don't know what to think about any of this. I don't know what to understand about any of this, but this ability that she has begun experiencing of bringing life is convincing her that she must be life, that she doesn't just kill things. Like, her ability to bring Blythe back to life after killing Percy. There was a moment where she had caused all of these vines to grow up from the ground, and now bringing this horse back, she's like, I must be life, but I refuse it because I don't want fate, I want death. But here is the midpoint, and this is when Blythe is like, get the heck out of my house. I don't want to see you ever again. So she retreats to Foxglove. I guess this is where her parents died due to certain things that happen, largely the fact that the ballroom is full of ghosts. I'm assuming her parents died in this ballroom along with all these other people who I guess had been there for the event or whatever happened. But she gets to Foxglove and she's like, there's all these weird things. I keep seeing spirits. She goes to sleep. She wakes up to a spirit trying to kill her, which apparently is very hard to do. It takes a lot for them to have any influence over the living. She's able to escape from this elderly ghost, and this elderly ghost makes it clear that she has been waiting for Signa to come back, and she is going to make her life miserable. She's going to take her down with her. Death shows up and he's ticked, but Signa's like, oh no, don't kill her. I need information. This woman refuses to give her information, so she leaves this woman to the hands of death. This is then when she stumbles across her maid in the kitchen, and she's like, oh my gosh, my poor maid. She's already kind of nervous anyways. And then she hears something. The piano is playing. So she goes into some other room and she finds a trio of ghosts, this family of ghosts, and the little girl is playing on the piano. They're talking about her. They don't know if she can see them. Eventually she's had enough and she's like, yeah, I can see you. I want you to stop playing the piano. I do not want you to haunt my house, and I want you to leave my servant alone. At which point they're like, we're not going near her anyways. There's something about her that we do not like. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Do we go anywhere near that? Absolutely not. So maybe that's something for Wisteria, or maybe that's something I just glazed over. I don't know. This was the exciting part of the novel, so I think I just missed it because I was like, I want to know the end, and then I would like rewind and listen, and then I would rewind and listen. So maybe I just missed a chapter or something because eventually I got the gist. But Signa goes to the ballroom. She stumbles across all of these ghosts because the trio, that family who I'm like, who are you and what do you have to do with anything? They're like, most of the spirits are in the ballroom. So she goes and they're all stuck in something called a loop. The only thing that I glean due to another event is that a loop is when a spirit loses touch with reality and is stuck in the moments of their death. But there's one ghost who, I can't remember her name either. She's not stuck in a loop. 20 odd ghosts stuck in a loop, but not her. And it's been 20 odd years. So why she's not stuck in the loop, I don't know. But she is obviously very lonely, and she turns out to be Signa's mother's best friend. Okay, cool. We're gonna get answers. We get no answers. Apparently there's like a black hole of memory regarding her death. I don't know. I guess I need to read Belladonna to figure it out, or at least find a decent review that will tell me what happened. But I was really enjoying seeing Signa get back to her roots, really figure out what happened with her parents, where she came from, solve all these mysteries of her past. There is one female ghost that the best friend cannot take her eyes off of. This female ghost apparently died from a fall. I don't know how Signa gets to this conclusion, but she concludes that this ghost had been running away from a pursuer and fell over the banister, and that's how she hit her head and died. Don't know how she got there, but she did, and apparently she's right. But it seems that the best friend is in love with this girl, so this was just a moment where I was like, where are we going here? Like, how is this going to play into the novel? And essentially it doesn't. Okay, it's a same-sex relationship during a period that was unacceptable, but why are we bringing it up if we're not going to do anything about it? Like, why are we making these statements if we're not going to do anything about it? And that, for me, pertains to any sort of information, any type of characterization or character trait or any plot points. Why are we bringing things up if they are unnecessary to the novel? The only thing we get is Signa. I can't for the life of me remember why, but she wants answers from fate, and fate is like, I'm not giving you anything because you haven't given me anything. I advise, if you want your answers, you invite all these people to Foxglove and you figure it out from there. So while she's having this big party, these ghosts are coming out of their loops. Something about high emotion can rile a ghost up, and this one ghost with the bashed head is like losing it. Sigma, she pleads with fate, and she's like, please, can you just pause for a moment? Like, can you just stop time right now so that I can take care of this, so that all chaos doesn't break loose? And he's like, oh, I'll give you 15 minutes, which, can I say, my very, very first issue with the narrator, with the audiobook, is that when she speaks for fate or death, it's so low and it's so mysterious that you can't hear what they say. I've got terrible hearing. I'm listening when I'm in the shower. I'm listening while I'm driving. Road noise, water. I cannot hear what she is saying. So I'm ratcheting up the volume, just have to ratchet it back down the 5 seconds after they speak. Sometimes my complaint is these narrators don't actually narrate the way the character is speaking. So I can appreciate that she's trying to make these guys dark, broody, and mysterious. But if I can't hear them, what's the point? Anyways, now she's like, I gotta get these guys out of their loops, and basically, if you've ever seen Ghost Whisperer, transitioned to the other side. So she's gonna be a conduit to get these people to move on. She kind of loses her temper with the best friend, and now she has to talk the best friend down from a ledge. But the best friend, they have this little chat where Signa's like, you know, you love her, don't you? And the best friend is like, yeah. And that's it. And it was a pointless tidbit in this novel. I thought whatever was going on with this other ghost with the skull was really interesting. It's quite possible, because it was a reciprocated feeling, that she just wasn't into men and she did not want this particular guy coming after her, whether because she doesn't like men or because he is a particularly vicious person. But I was like, what's going on here? But she seems interesting. I want to know why and how she died. Did she die during this ball? So if she died during this ball, why is she showing these signs of her death versus all these others who, for whatever reason, died and they look perfectly normal? And there's a lot that was unexplained. But Signa is also trying to bring life to her mother's garden, and she absolutely 100% cannot do it, which frustrates fate. And I'm like, dude, give her a minute. But it's also frustrating Signa. And then this is kind of one of those moments where I, at first, was like, oh my gosh, I think she might be life. And then the further we went into it, I was like, but is she really? Mainly because Grace was so adamant about this great love story between Signa and Death that I was like, I just don't think she could be life. This is not going to be one of those books where the writer connects her reader to these two characters only to rip everything apart. Like, that's just a cardinal rule of writing. You don't fool the reader. You just don't. You don't trick the reader into the whole book is actually a dream. And so this character fell in love with somebody else during the dream only to wake up from her coma and realize it was a dream, and now she's in love with two men, the guy and his best friend. You don't do it. The readers do not like that. So just knowing the rules of writing, I was like, there's no way. So if there's no way she will leave death, and there's no way fate will give up on life, there's no way that Signa can be life. So I haven't given you too many clues, but everything finishes. She passes all the ghosts over. We are in the epilogue. Everett and Michelle have married, but we still, for the love of Pete, do not know who killed the Duke. Elijah was found guilty. Somehow he is released from prison. Byron, actually I can't tell you that. We learned before this that Eliza, who is Everett's sister, she's pregnant. And who do you think the dad is? Percy. So this is actually why Byron was so avid in trying to locate Percy. And Eliza's dilemma is that her father wanted her to either abort the baby or marry this really old guy, and that was just not going to be a good marriage. So Eliza had actually entertained the idea of making this old guy sick, feeding him poison so that he would be too ill for her father to think that he would be a good match for her. All of a sudden, the Duke ends up dead. Did Eliza do it? So, I definitely missed something. I think I skipped a chapter when I was like rewinding and fast forwarding and everything. And Byron knew that she was pregnant with Percy's baby. He marries her because he also was like, this is a hawthorn, this baby needs to be raised by hawthorns. So theirs is a marriage of convenience. Everett and Michelle are married. Byron and Eliza are married. Signa is living her best life with death. But Blythe is like, I'm the odd man out, but I'm sure glad to have Signa back in my life. This gets her to thinking. She's like, we still don't know who actually killed the Duke. It could have been Eliza. It could have been Byron. And so she follows her train of thought and she realizes Byron must have killed the Duke because Eliza is carrying Percy's child, and he would not let somebody unworthy raise a hawthorn. Eliza claims that she threw out the poison. Byron must have picked it up, put it in the cup, and then Elijah handed it to the Duke, and the Duke died. But that's not all. The final note that we end on is Blythe has a vision. A bright, blinding vision. It's not even a vision, it's more like a memory vision involving a deep, dark, gruff voice who is absolutely, obviously enamored with her and blah, 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 blah. So now we're like, okay, Blythe is life. Which to me, I came to that conclusion already because every time that Signa displayed life's powers, it was when Blythe was around. Blythe escaped death 3 times. Blythe lives with Signa. So anything involving life involves Signa and Blythe. Honestly, my first instinct when we learned about life was that Blythe had to be life, because how else could she escape death so frequently? It does seem that in the first novel, she was dying because someone was trying to poison her. Why they were trying to poison her, I don't know. Who tried to poison her? I don't know. None of that was revealed in Foxglove. But I really did enjoy the second half when Signa was at Foxglove and then learning that Blythe was more than likely life. I thought that was a really strong ending. I would still like resolution regarding what happened to Signa's family, because I don't feel like it was well resolved at all. We didn't learn the mysteries, unless that was something that I missed because I'd skipped it. For me, we didn't learn the mystery behind her parents' deaths. So Yeah. Have you read this series? What do you think? What do you know that I don't? And thanks for coming back. Bye.